Welcome to the Cricket Weekly podcast, guys. On the reverse scoop, it's Adam and Nabeel. What's going on, Nabeel?
What's up, Adam? We're back with another week here on Cricket Weekly on the reverse scoop. And we got some great things to discuss tonight. Top 10 ways sports stars build popularity, lessons for cricket in America. So we got a lot to discuss tonight. But before we move on, let's start with the news coming out of USA Cricket. Adam, do you want to let the viewers know the most updated news coming out of USA Cricket about the squad that's announced, the team flying to Namibia?
Absolutely. So, guys, we've been mentioning the last couple of weeks, there is the basically the Tier 2 Cricket World Cup League, the CWC. Now, the USA, they were just over in the Netherlands. They played against the Netherlands and Canada. Now they're on the way to Namibia. Namibia. It's a tongue twister right there.
A tongue twister, yeah.
They're on the way over there to play the next round of games, and the team was just announced. So there will be some ODIs and there will be some T20s. So yeah, a couple of obviously we have some obvious inclusions in here. Good to see in here. They took my advice. Patel's still captaining. They have Goose Gauss in for the ODIs. Thank goodness. I've been saying this the whole time. I don't know why I didn't play the ODIs, but we have Andreas Goose in for the ODIs. Hopefully I don't think this is the batting lineup, but it's just including of who is in it. We have Harmeet Singh and Jasdeep Singh, so two good bowlers there. Drysdale will be bowling again. Kumar. Kenjige. Now Kenjige, he's one of my favorite guys. He's an off spinner. He didn't play much in the World Cup, and then he did really good in the MLC, and they got him back. He's been taking a lot of wickets, so that's great. Smith Patel in there as well. He did really well. He took some really good runs. Now Makamala, is that how I'm saying it properly? The young fella, right?
You got it right. Yep.
That's the young fella. He made his debut, didn't he? I believe in the Canada game or one of those games.
Yeah, the T20s. Yeah, it was his T20 debut, and he scored a 50 on debut. He scored, I think, 100 on his ODI debut. So he's done really well so far.
Yeah. So into the ODI squad there. Now then we got Modani. I don't know. That's not off the top of my head. I can't place him from the MLC or from the previous series. So. New player there. Obviously, Netravolkar is back. Yes, Netravolkar is back. This should almost seal the wins. I mean, I mentioned it talking about, them going to versus Canada and Netherlands. Netravolkar not playing. His wife has had a baby, so I kind of speculated that was the reason why he didn't fly over there. Wanted a little break from the World Cup and MLC, but having him back in the squad he's the GOAT. He's the American GOAT bowler.
Yeah.
He's the guy, I think. And talking about superstars of the game and superstars that USA can really get behind to make cricket bigger here. Netravolkar is the guy. He's up there as almost the guy you can call him to get behind. So then we got Jahang. I don't know how to say Jahangiri.
Shayan Jahangir.
There we go. He's been in the side. Hasn't scored a lot of runs. Hasn't done too much, but he's in the side there. Now Van Kalsake. I think it's Van Kalfake, however you say that.
Van Schalkwijk.
Yes. So hadn't done much during the World Cup. Didn't do much during the MLC, but he bowled very well in the Canada Netherlands little series over there. Took a 4 at one point. 4 for 22, I believe. He did very well. So middle order batter, all rounder. So yes, he's into the side. Then another new name here. I'm gonna probably botch this, but Srivastava. Is that close?
Utkarsh Srivastava.
There we go. Srivastava. Okay, that we're gonna go with that. I have a new name. I don't recognize that name.
It's a new name, yeah. And Yasir Muhammad in that squad too, yeah.
And then Muhammad, was he also a new guy, a younger feller?
He's a youngster, he's a youngster, really good leg spinner, and I think bats really well tut. So he's a good addition. I like Yasir Muhammad, but a couple of new names, as you mentioned in there, that we haven't seen. I think Shashank Modani and Utkarsh Srivastava.
And looking down into the T20 squad, I see a Paradaka. I don't know that one off the top of my head. Yeah, That's probably the only name there I don't recognize. So,
well, one name missing out of here, Adam, is the vice captain, Aaron Jones. I don't see Aaron Jones in the.
Jones is not playing and Taylor isn't playing.
So I don't know.
That's another name I don't see.
Cricket announced like they were on the airplane and the squad is announced like just now. So it'd be I don't know why these two guys are out, but yeah, missing from these lists. So
interesting. I don't know if it's a form based thing. I mean,
I don't know.
Taylor hasn't done well at top of the order. I'd like to see him down the order. In the T20s.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're just trying to get some new blood in there to see how it goes. Or again, it could be an availability thing. You don't know how these things work availability wise, but no, coming up, we've got a couple games.
It could be that they're just working full time and USA Cricket isn't paying those guys enough. So if USA Cricket can pay their players enough, maybe those guys can, get off their full-time jobs.
We don't know how much they get paid.
We have an idea.
we have an idea.
Shut. Okay, so from that, Adam, let's get into our conversation for today, man. So how can these stars that we just named, even the T20 squad, it looks very similar, not many differences, but what can these stars do to become popular, to become a mainstay in USA Cricket? We brought up, Saurabh Netravalkar, and Aaron Jones is another one who performed big at that World Cup stage. So he also he has that potential. So there's some guys there that can get to that, level of making the popularity of cricket in America huge. And I think those guys have some responsibilities. So we want to highlight some things that, American sporting legends and athletes do to kind of, build that popularity and compare it with some big cricket stars across the board. So the first thing, I want to talk about is iconic performance moments. So in iconic, essentially, with every sports fan, we have iconic moments. We remember Michael Jordan's flu game in 1997, or Tiger Woods winning the Masters in 2019. And, these moments live forever. And same thing with the Aaron Jones that we kind of just discussed, the 90-something he scored in that World Cup, the performance of Saurabh Netravalkar. What can they do to take those performances and kind of, add their flavor into the American cricket to bring more popularity?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing, and the reason why we're kind of all here is that they beat Pakistan. So like winning, the first thing they have to do is win, and they have to win a lot. They have to win often, and basically just win all the time. So I really don't see an avenue where we lose. Most of these games, like we should have won against the Netherlands, and obviously we're doing very well against Canada. But in this CWC competition, the goal of USA Cricket should be just to never lose a game. That really should be our total goal. Like if we're able to win all these games, then it gives a reason for people to be following. Like as soon as we're losing too much, then it's not, you're backing like a losing side. Like if you take like the NFL or any of the big sports, people are less likely to, if they're a new follower to the sport, they're less likely to follow a team that comes last every year than a team that comes first, which is kind of like, think about why people like the Patriots. Like, the Patriots got brought off the back of Tom Brady. And like me coming to America, I didn't know much about the NFL, but I know who Tom Brady was. Similarly with basketball, I didn't know much about basketball, but I knew who Michael Jordan was. So I would follow the Bulls. Like, that's a little bit earlier, and same with the Yankees. I literally didn't know the Mets were even a team until 2015. Like, I was a sports fan. I love watching sports, but in Australia, coming to learn a new sport, baseball, we didn't get any Mets news. There was no like, this week the Mets did this. No, it was just the Yankees. Yankees this, Yankees that. It was Yankees, it's Red Sox, it's the Dodgers. Like these brands are global. These brands are international. It isn't just about the baseball. You go to any country, you're going to see someone wear a Yankees hat. You're going to see someone wearing a Chicago Bulls hat. You're going to see someone wearing a Manchester United hat. Like these big brands and the teams become brands essentially. And USA were able to make themselves something from nothing essentially, because technically they've been playing cricket for almost ever. Like technically it's been sitting there doing something, but no one took notice of it until they won a huge game. And they beat Pakistan. They beat them in the World Cup on home soil. And all of a sudden now we're talking about it. Now, the only way that we can keep this train going is not to lose. And that's why some points I've been critical on selection, because it really matters. It really actually matters. If you want to grow the sport of cricket, it has to be from the point of we can never lose. Like, and obviously we're going to lose. Like when we go up against, Australia or England or West Indies or South Africa. But like we had a chance in those games in the World Cup. Like we were very close against South Africa to beating them. We were very close against India. But obviously, experience really drove it home at the end for the the bigger nations. So yeah, it's very important that winning is the first thing.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, like, everybody loves an underdog story, right? So like for somebody like a USA Cricket that has nothing to lose type of an approach, where we just have to go out there and really try and perform to the best of our abilities, which I think we can do, compete and inspire a bunch of people, right? Saurabh Netravalkar is a big example. He during the World Cup and after the World Cup and in the MLC, even Aaron Jones and some players just, became huge because of the performances that they brought, to the fore. And essentially that's really what it is. And if we compare to someone like a Kohli, it's just been hard work for him there, like, day in and day out. When it comes to iconic performances, he just piled the runs on and just, forced his hand. So sometimes it's just forcing that hand when it comes to, building your brand. It doesn't really always have to be that you take, just one side of approach. I mean, we have so many examples, where people get into fashion, they get into different types of brands to really grow and attract newer audiences. Essentially, that's the idea, is to attract newer audiences to the game. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, like the secondary part of how to grow the game is to get the social media presence big. Like social media is obviously what runs the world, in conjunction with how much sports coverage you get through the big networks like ESPN and Fox Sports or whatever. But people can go their own route. And I think that one of the best examples of this is Ilona Ma. Through the Olympics, she has over like 2 million, I think, on TikTok, over 1 million, 2 million on Instagram. Yeah. She was able to really grow herself as an individual that attached herself to a sport. And then that sport performed and did very well. And then that brought traction to that sport. And then they left the Olympics with a $4 million deal from, I don't know, some famous lady that is in sports. I didn't know who it was exactly, but it guaranteed $1 million a year for the next 4 years to grow women's rugby in the US. And that was off the back of simply Ilona Maher being her own self, growing her personal brand, and then matching it with her sport, which she actually did well at.
Yeah, that's a great example.
That's the thing I see lacking, is the personal personalities through social media on any of the USA cricket team. That would be what I would do if I was a media manager. I would have everyone run their own personal account and post stories to get people involved with them as people, so that they are more invested when they actually go and win.
Absolutely, man. There needs to be a more cohesive approach when it comes to handling the players, handling their social media, educating them on, the do's and don'ts when it comes to building the popularity and brand. And I think one of the major problem really is the education. I mean, nothing against anybody, but these guys are professional cricketers. They don't have time to learn all this stuff, right? So for them, just having somebody that can guide them and walk them through the process. Hey, what do you guys need to do this is what you need to do to, grow your following, as well as build a brand around what you're doing, whatever your interests are. Right. And I'm not sure if, USA Cricket's even thinking about that. They do have, media managers. They hardly post stuff on their accounts, like on Timely, right? Because we just saw the USA Cricket squad announcing they were already on the plane. So I don't think they have the budgets. I don't think they have the budgets to cover stuff like this. So, but hey, if USA Cricket needs help, I offer my help for free, and I'm sure Adam does too. we got
help over here.
Yeah. USA Cricket, you guys have helped to guide these USA players, and Adam and I can do this job for you, and we're not going to charge you much. Just we'll talk about the stuff later. So
we'll talk about this later.
Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking, right? But that's the problem. So when it comes to iconic performances and moments, that was our section there. So let's move on to crossover appeal, Adam, which is our next segment or next idea of building this popularity for US cricketers. So you wanna kick off something about
we
crossover appeal?
Yeah, so we just touched on this a little bit, like, kind of with the Ilona Maher thing. Like, you have to be doing something outside of your sport, whether it's just talking about yourself personally or breaking into something else. I mean, some situations, it actually comes from the fame. Maybe the fame comes first before the brand happens.
Yeah.
Like, you think about Jordan makes a whole line of shoes, or, I know Serena Williams and LeBron, they kind of have their own like brand. Even Coley, I think he has his own brand of a fashion stuff like this. Now, some of that I think actually comes probably after the fame. The crossover in my mind really is about, like, are you able to connect with people outside of your sport just as a human? Do they like you as a human? And then do they want to follow you for your sport? Because that was the biggest thing that I found, during my Olympic coverage, was I had a lot of women when I was talking about rugby, like, oh, I didn't even know men played rugby. We just follow Ilona Maher and we think that rugby's awesome. I didn't know that guys even played. And I'm like, yeah, they also have a team, but there's no one on that team making anything. There's no men's rugby players on social media talking about it. So therefore no one's knowing about it. So that's the only way people get to know, is through coverage. And because, the big networks don't cover these lower sports, American lower sports, because we got to consider that. We can get into that later, some of the numbers on how big, obviously cricket's it's the second largest sport, and the US is just kind of waking up to like how big it is. So, yeah, what do you see? Do you have anything else that you see that's been able to do something outside of cricket?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm thinking, Virat Kohli is a huge example, because he's not just a cricketer, he's a fashion icon, he's a brand ambassador, social media powerhouse. I mean, people that recognize cricket here in America, it's probably because of Virat Kohli, because he has such great, huge followings. And, even I know at work, a lot of people, during the World Cup are watching cricket, and they got to learn, hey, what's going on, certain players. So I think someone like Virat Kohli has had a huge impact. He's in that upper echelon of categories, but
Well, Virat Kohli, bringing that up, like, one of the interesting things on the numbers, like, Virat Kohli is on Instagram, has as many followers as Taylor Swift on Instagram. Like, like 230 million followers on Instagram.
Plus, he's up to 250 plus now, I think.
Like it's in the high 200 millions. And it's like, if you compare that to, like, when you tell an American that, it's like, that's crazy to them, because to them, like, Taylor Swift is the pinnacle of stars and celebrities here in the US. There's this cricketer over here that has just as many followers as her.
Imagine comparison with the LeBron James. LeBron James is sitting at probably 96 million followers. Virat Kohli 250 million plus. That should tell you a little bit of what it is, because LeBron James is the biggest basketball star, and the whole world knows him. But Virat Kohli, again, is just another level, man, when it comes to reaching new audiences.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I know India has a big population as well, so just call it out there as well,
Yeah, the Indian bias.
There,
the Indian bias. They got a billion over there.
Yeah. But I think a lot of things with the crossover appeal, man, it's learning, for younger players, because it's all about putting yourselves out there, right? So I've seen a lot of players in India, Pakistan now really trying to, get into the TikToks and the shorts and really putting their own game out there, so they can get some, highlights and people can see what these guys have, right? So imagine if we had a cricket star who was what is well known in the US for his TikToks as he is for his, game-winning sixes, for example, right?
Yeah.
So, like, we don't have that where somebody's well-versed into getting their own stuff out there. So again, it's an education that's lacking, from that standpoint. And I think the future is that. So maybe, our kids and younger players now need to start, looking at that stuff and really start to learn that process to really market themselves, because that's a skill that, we have to do on our own. Nobody's going to do it for you as a player.
Yeah. I mean, it's another part of that also is kind of like, maybe we'll get into this a little bit, but it's a little bit like, if sometimes there's always like the villain. The villain can also like make themselves famous in a way, like being able to call out against another team, like having a rivalry. We don't really have a rivalry per se, but being able to call out and say, oh, we're going to go out there and we're going to smash them or whatever. Like, it creates hype in the media. And then when they go out and actually do it, it creates them. They become a bigger star because they talk the talk kind of thing. So that's always like another strategy for like how to get it. But I don't know who's stepping up to like do that. Everyone seems very nice.
I feel you. I feel you. And before we move on, I mean, we have these questions bringing it up for you guys. So make sure you guys drop the answer and let us know, your thoughts on it. We're going to go through additional 8 points on this, and we're going to have a question on each. So drop your thoughts. Let us know what you guys think. And as well as, make sure to check out our links in the description of the Reverse Scoop shop, as well as if you guys want to do your own content, I've dropped some links in there for you guys. So go check it out, and you guys will be able to take a look at our tech stack, what we're using, and how we do this content stuff. So if you want to get into it, go check out those links, and you guys will be able to get good deals, right from those links. So definitely check those out. And now we can move on to the media personalities, Adam. The stars built popularity, by transitioning into media roles. LeBron James started his own production company. Tom Brady's signed in to become an NFL, analyst. And these guys stay in the spotlight, long after their days are even gone. So, we haven't seen that from, ex-US players. I mean, just once they're done with cricket, they're on to their corporate careers, and nobody's really getting into cricket. So why do you think that is?
I mean, it's kind of hard. I mean, like I said, you have to be a big star to kind of cross it over. Like when you look at cricket, a lot of ex-cricketers, let's take about Australia, for example, cross over to being commentators. Like you have Michael Slater, Mark Waugh, Ricky Ponting, Gilchrist, like even Mark Waugh, he does some of the Big Bash. A lot of cricket, Hayden was even over here for the MLC. So they transition over, and then obviously a lot of those players have to transition into coaching and things like this, so they're getting, they're still get some time in the sun. But we don't know really much about the US cricketers, because they don't have that bigger social media presence, and it's not going to have the pool, I guess, that it would be like, because even if Ricky Ponting, if he went to India, people are still going to recognize him. I mean, if he went to England, people are going to recognize him. Even inside of the USA, we're not going to recognize the players because they haven't really become the big stars yet. Whereas probably cricket fans can kind of off the cuff be like, oh yeah, Netravolker got that one down. Yeah, perfect. But then a lot of the other ones, like Jones, he made a good name for himself in the World Cup. But when it starts getting down the list, you're like, I don't really know who that is. I don't really know much about him. I don't really know how many runs they scored, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's, the performances, these guys, once they're in that team, players that are going to do well at the best top stage, will really get to that next level, and we'll have the opportunity. And you brought up Saurabh Netravolkar. He's a great example because he's become a well-known player across not just US, but the world. Mm-hmm. So what can a guy like Netravolkar do, to take this stuff to the next level? So can he get into, media after his playing career is over to foresee, those changes that maybe he thinks that are needed to, get these players across the board to the next level, and getting them, to essentially to a point where they start to become icons in USA cricket, and the performances, just kind of, takes them to the next level. So do you think it's a lack of talent, or is it just a lack of education, or just the vision?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, we have to be able to beat the bigger teams. So no one's going to really care about a player or a team, because right now they're playing as a team rather than playing as individuals. And then inside of a team, you have the bigger stars. Like you think about the Kansas City Chiefs, they have Mahomes, them as and like I said, the Patriots, the Patriots are bigger than sometimes the Patriots are bigger than Brady. You think of something like Mahomes, I would say, is almost bigger than the Chiefs. People talk about more than Mahomes as a player, and they talk about the Chiefs as a whole. Think of Manchester United. You think about the team rather than you think about in the Yankees. You think about the team rather than the individual player sometimes. So the team itself has to just succeed for then the individual players to make themselves iconic by winning those games. We can look back and say, oh yeah, when we did this, that's what really made that person stand out. And then that person would have to keep following up with their life outside of cricket to keep it going.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And it's a tough, for these guys just to because right now the cricket in US obviously needs, an injection, which we got during the World Cup, right? And these guys got some limelight, but now we're like, again, on the back burner, because again, there's Major League going on, and I'm sure again next year when we get closer to Major League, there'll be other things that will happen, that will give us more spotlight into world cricket. So how much do you think we need that attention, to get USA Cricket consistently keep pounding, that nail, so we actually start to see more traction in the next couple of years?
Well, it's hard because the sports here do go in seasons. So
Yeah.
baseball is kind of the exception that doesn't really have a season. It's just kind of always on. It's just like one big blob of games throughout the entire year.
165 games, man, in a season. That's crazy.
Yeah, but if you think about the NFL, like the NFL has a clear off period and a clear on period. And during the off period, it's okay to be off. And no one really cares that they're off. There's no talk. There's no big real NFL talk in that off season. We just switch to different sports to talk about. Then when NFL season is on, it's all we talk about. That's all that happens. So like from this last weekend through till whatever it is, Super Bowl, we're only going to talk about football, and that's it. Baseball will even come to the side. Baseball's going to go to the side a little bit when they have the World Series. We'll do that, and then that'll be the end of that, and then it's going to end. And then that's kind of how it rolls over here. So, and obviously being a non-winter sport, cricket's a summer sport. Cricket now gets flipped to Southern Hemisphere, and now we're playing Australian cricket, South African cricket, New Zealand cricket. All the Southern Hemisphere cricket is getting played because that's where it's nice and warm. And then we have those kind of series that will kick off in the later end of the year. So we're basically wrapping up cricket here in the Northern Hemisphere. And then it's going to go down under. It basically has to just go in, it has to go in waves. And basically now then it will be building to next season, and then people getting excited for the next season. So that's really simple. I don't think there's much we can do over the winter time. I think it's okay to let things lie. And then basically you want to try to pull people into that time period where there's no football and baseball's kind of in the middle of doing what it's doing.
I think it's about finding the right time slot, right? For people for cricket to get attention, right? Because right now it's a summer sport, and we would compete with a sport like baseball where we can potentially use it as a leverage to get into those newer audiences. But I don't think, baseball would want to compete head to head with a sport like cricket. I mean, I don't think we can even compete with MLB here in the US, but still to think about, that time slot where cricket can fit into a slot where there's no baseball, there's no basketball, there's no football, and all there is to watch is cricket, right? So
there is no slot.
That's a problem, because right now the market is covered with one thing or the other.
And that's the difference between like America and, let's say, Australia, right? Because in Australia we have rugby league that runs through the winter time, so this is the now time. That's going to end, in October. It's going to end like first week of October. That's when that finishes, and September is when cricket starts. So cricket's going to start in the end of this month in Australia, and then it's going to run through to March, and then there's going to be a little off period, and then it's going to go back into rugby league again. And that's that's our two sports. Where in the States, you got baseball and football being the two that are going back to back. Basketball's kind of wedged in between there, and things get split between baseball and the basketball. But I think that's also a different fan base almost. I don't know too many hardcore baseball fans that are also basketball fans. I either know really hardcore basketball fans or hardcore baseball fans, and then both of those love football. That makes sense. I don't know if you found that similar thing with you, but So I don't think it's a good answer. I think the only thing that they can do is basically make it short and sweet, and then build up to it, have it, and then on to the next thing.
I think one thing we can do potentially, right, with a strategic approach is to target areas where it's already cricket rich. We discussed this in our podcast episode with Peter Della Penna and Nate Hayes and Aman Patel. We're going to be dropping that episode sometime by the end of the week, so stay tuned for that episode drop. We've dropped some shorts already, so you guys can check out those teasers. But definitely we discussed in that episode, right? Peter brought up that we should be targeting cricket rich states already, so like Texas, New York, Florida, New Jersey and Midwest states, and wherever we have a population. North Carolina, it's huge, and that's where the focus should be. We don't need to hit all areas, but gather that cricket rich state so we get at least that viewership from these areas where we already know we have followers in cricket. So that's probably one thing that I think needs a better strategic approach and a vision to accomplish, and to get that NCAA status. We also discussed that. So those are some ways that I think we can get into those markets and grow. And from that point, we can talk about grassroots level, which is our next point. Right. I mean, we've seen the rise of athletes who began, making waves at the grassroots. If we look at Caitlin Clarke, she was a sensation in college basketball, and now she's bringing so much attention to the women's game. In cricket, we see young stars like Shafali Verma. She was just a teenager when she made waves for India, and she's inspiring a whole new generation of young girls to pick up the bat. Right. So getting into that grassroots, there's things that these players can do to bring, spotlight to them just by, providing goodwill, man, out into the world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the grassroots and cricket, it has to be a, local, it has to be like locally promoted. So like if I remember back in Australia, like when we would play, every team that won a championship would get posted in the paper. The town would make a big deal about it. And it would be, even if it's a little soccer team from, little Morisset, Australia, like you would get your own spot in the paper. And it would be like a little news thing. And then, when you move on to regionals or you move on to state or whatever, they'd make a big deal about it in the town. That has to kind of happen on the grassroots level. Like anything that's happening with someone being selected for a team or playing for a team, that really should be advocated for in the town. And the towns, obviously, and the state should be doing a lot more to like make cricket more accessible, have more availability. And then, but it's like one of those things where it's like it's happening all around us, but like no one's really caring about it. You consider the minor league is going on right now. All the teams what is there, like 8 or so teams out here in New York, Connecticut that are playing, and no one knows about it. I don't even really know about it. I mean, it's happening, but to try to keep up with it, it's not. You got to dig for it. You got to find. They're not on Willow TV.
They're not easily available
everywhere. You have to go to the YouTube channel, the MLC YouTube channel. And again, it's not like in your face. Whereas all the other sports are kind of like in your face. And you wouldn't know even these people that are coming up through the grassroots. Like, Caitlin Clarke, I don't even know how to explain where that even came from. Like, I all of a sudden am a women's basketball fan now, and I watch Caitlin Clarke play. I don't know why. I don't know why that is, but I noticed it obviously during the college basketball days. And it's kind of like a little underdog story in with it. Like, white girl from Iowa is not supposed to be really good at basketball. So you're like, oh, I'm going to root for the underdog to kind of win here. And cricket's in a similar situation where, we're an underdog sport. We're not really, the big sport over here, and beating a big person like Pakistan gets people excited. But yeah, a better job has to get done, obviously, from the bigger sporting networks to get cricket noticed. That's probably like the biggest thing, because these people are all here. These players, some of them were born here, or they moved here. A lot of them are actually born here, but you wouldn't know that because they don't talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys let us know what you guys think. Do you think cricket could grow in popularity through school and college leagues, like other sports in the U.S.? Let us know what you guys think on this. And again, NCAA status is what we should be, going for, because, again, the grassroots is only going to improve if there's funding at the college level to really gets, come down to, again, these cricket rich states that we identified, during that podcast. And if the target is, that we get, some 20 colleges is what we need on the males and 20 on the females. Now, the big, problem that we have in getting that NCAA status is that 99% of the player base in the USA is all male base, and 1% is female. And for us to get that NCAA status, we need a 50-50 split, so we can have, Division I programs in colleges for boys and girls, So, we can get that NCAA status. And again, it's not, too far fetched, because we already have these cricket rich states and the regions where we know we can get more than 20 colleges interested into starting a Division I program. And once you get 20 presidents from 20 colleges on board in those cricket rich states for boys and girls, kick off some programs, man, and get that NCAA status. Because once you have that, that's going to kick down to high school. It's going to kick down to elementary school. It's going to, keep on going down to the grassroots. And once we can do that, we'll see more stars like Caitlin Clarke come into cricket and become those big media personalities and become those big icon and achieve those iconic moments because they've come through the proper setup and the proper pathway. So I think that's where the lack is right now.
Yeah, I think another thing that you can consider is that there's actually a plethora of sports here in the US.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the biggest things that's going to hold cricket back from ever growing here, is that you have, outside of the football, which is obviously huge, and the baseball, which is huge, you then go into basketball, and then you go into hockey, and you go into lacrosse. Like lacrosse is probably like the sport really holding us back. Like if lacrosse didn't exist, there'd be a gap there. And obviously then you have things like that kind of everywhere, like golf and tennis, like the more individual style sports. They're in every country. But as for the team sports, like it's going to be like if you compared it to, Europe, like England, or compared it to Australia, they just have their football, so their traditional soccer, they have their rugby, and they have their cricket. In Australia, we have our traditional rugby, our Australian rules rugby, and cricket, and then we also have a little bit of soccer. But there's no real other sport competing with us. Baseball's not a big thing. There's no Major League Baseball, no Major League Football, as in like the NFL. There's no Major League Basketball. That doesn't exist. So that's probably the other thing that's really going to hold the grassroots back, is that parents are invested in their kids playing football or baseball or lacrosse. They're kind of like the biggest three things they put their kids into. And so I don't really see like your average American parent going and be like, oh, I think I'm going to sign my kid up for cricket. That's just not happening right now. And will that ever happen? We hope that happens. But it's not really going to happen. Like, to be honest, it's only going to be a Pakistan or an Indian family that, like, it's part of their heritage. They want to get part of a local side. And then you do that, because like we play cricket and most of our players are Pakistan, India, or West Indies are from Jamaica. And that's just part of their heritage. And we've bonded together and made teams through local areas, but it's not like we have just the run of the mill Americans parents running up and like, hey, I want you teach my kid cricket, Well,
I think the reason is that the inclusivity is not there for cricket because it's not treated that way as well, right? I mean, we're lacking the infrastructure, we're lacking the entire process of getting a player from high school, getting them through pros, and then getting them to the top level, right? So that it's non-existent in that system. So, for grassroots to really pan out, I mean, we have to, again, NCAA, man, because it's going to make things so much more inclusive if it comes down to, the high school levels and middle school, elementary school levels, where kids are just playing for fun in their recess, right? So like that's non-existent right now because it doesn't get that inclusivity. They'll play softball, they'll play dodgeball, they'll play basketball, they'll play baseball, they'll play all these other sports, but cricket is not a part of it. And cricket's going to be in the Olympics in 2028, guys. So I urge all schools to at least give it a shot, and again, if you guys need to run a clinic on cricket, if in Connecticut or New York, Adam and I will volunteer to come and run a clinic for you guys and teach the kids how to do it, because we want to do this, to include everybody else. We want kids from all backgrounds and boys and girls to try and get themselves out there and try cricket, because there's transferable skills from softball to baseball to racquetball to tennis to whatever sport you're playing. I guarantee you're going to have skills that are going to transfer to cricket, and you may love it. So definitely, if you haven't given it a shot, give it a shot. And, we have our New Milford Cricket, Academy, and Adam does, his coaching stuff in Danbury here. So we are here to help you guys, reach out to us into the comments, into the DM us, and we can help kids out, getting you guys learning cricket. So that's the process we're going with in helping the grassroots, because that's something that's in our control and that's something that we can do. So anything you want to add there, Adam, before we move on to the next point?
No, we're just growing it. We're growing it. That's
Yeah.
the thing. We're just growing it. Yep.
Yeah.
And people will tag along. Like I met a guy on the weekend, Johnny.
Yeah.
Shout out to Johnny if you're watching. But he's a American, loved watching baseball. Somehow got hooked on IPL.
Awesome.
Somehow, I don't really know how. And then all of a sudden is like found a local club and started playing. Never played before.
That's awesome.
Never played cricket before. Just watched IPL, fell in love with it. Now he's playing cricket. So shout out to Johnny.
That's awesome, man. That sounds like Nate Hayes, one of our USA
Nate. Shout out to Nate.
Yeah. He was a baseball player, Division I, converted to cricket, practiced for a year or two until he got a game in with his club, and that's a story that I loved hearing, man, because he saw the spell of Wahab Riaz and Shane Watson in that World Cup, and he was mesmerized by the intensity of what was happening, and he just fell in love with cricket. So again, it's part of that iconic moment for him that got him to love cricket, and now he covers minor league cricket. He covers, so if you need somebody, like, if you want to look up news, find Nate Hayes or Aman Patel on social media, Facebook. They do a MILC live
emerging cricket in the big innings,
big innings, and they also do on Major League Network for the MILC. So you can find them over there if you guys need to update on what's going on with MILC or Major League Cricket. So definitely shout out to those guys, and shout out to Nate for converting over to cricket, man. Salute to you, sir. We need more people like that. So now on to the next, man. Controversy and comebacks. I'm going to drop a question here for you guys. What's the greatest comeback story you've seen in sport? Could a story like that help cricket catch on in the U.S.? Drop your thoughts into the comments. And, controversy is not always pretty, but, it draws attention. We talk about Tom Brady's Deflate Gate, how he came back to win more Super Bowls, after, that entire thing. We can talk about someone like a Steve Smith, who was the skipper in the Sandpaper Gate in Australia.
Gate.
Other three guys with Colin Bancroft and I forget the third name.
Warner was there.
Warner was there. Yeah, Warner.
I was I was just thinking about this morning with the Sandpaper Gate. I was thinking of a good comical video with the Ashes, but the T20 series is coming up tomorrow. Actually, it starts. Australia and England. And I was thinking of doing a funny video. Like, is this going to be a POV? And it'd be like getting ready for Australia versus England, and it's me walking into Home Depot and like going to the sandpaper section. Just like they give me the sandpaper. And I'd be like, yeah. And then I was gonna also think of a video where how to be an English cricket fan, or like how to join the Barmy Army. And how to do the chants, like same old Aussies, always cheating.
Yeah,
that's so good.
Oh my god!
But I mean, like it's like you're right. Controversies bring some can bring a bad light sometimes to the game, but it also exposes the game to more people, because it like Sandpaper Gate became like an international scandal, and it was everywhere, and it was like, well, that's not the best thing that's happened in cricket in a while. Like a bunch of other really cool things happened, but you need sometimes that bad story to get it out there, and then people start following more, because cricket was on a decline. Australian cricket was on a decline. I personally was not watching cricket in this time period. I think it was 2018, I believe, is when this happened. And I wasn't watching cricket. I didn't care too much about it. My run of Steve Waugh into Ponting into Clarke was kind of over, and it was this new team, and I was like, I don't really care too much about it. And then all of a sudden, Sandpaper Gate, and it's like, oh, hang on a minute, now I'm caring again. So sometimes the bad can bring eyes back to the game.
Absolutely.
What did you have? Did you have another example of like?
Yeah, I mean, in marketing, they say that there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? So, these guys definitely garnered attention, and I think the only person that really was punished from this entire debacle was Cameron Bancroft, because he was the only one who wasn't able to make a comeback into the team and play for Australia.
Wasn't that great?
Yeah, so there it was. He was all right, but he was he was made the scapegoat, right, to kind of take the fall. And these guys, Stephen Smith and And
So I believe he did. I
Warner,
believe he did come back. No, he did come back and play,
oh, he did?
but he was dropped. He just wasn't that. He wasn't that good. I think because Lavershame ended up replacing him eventually. Because I did watch the test. Shout out to the test on Amazon Prime if you guys want to watch a really good cricket documentary. I believe he did come back and play after, but he just didn't make it. He just got dropped. Yeah,
interesting. And I remember like there was some controversy regarding his selection. He was scoring runs in the first class tournament, in Australia, and he was on top of his form. But I think they ended up going with Matthew Renshaw, if I remember correctly.
Okay,
like,
he's another name. Yeah,
back.
He's another name.
So they did overlook him.
The whole thing's a raw. Like, I mean, this could be a whole nother conversation for next week because Australia's going to start playing again. So we'll have some more for next week, but we'll definitely touch on the Australian team next week. But the whole thing's a raw. Like Mitch Marsh, he was hated by most Australians. They didn't want him in the side. He was booed at the Boxing Day test, and he's now the T20 captain and like had the most drop catches in the World Cup. Like, as much as you want to love the guy for being a young Aussie guy, lovable guy, he's not the world's greatest cricketer. Like, and my big thing on cricket is strategically getting somebody out. If you're able to figure out what someone's weakness is, and the only reason you allow them to get runs, you drop a catch from them. Like Marsh had 3. I was calling the game live. I think it was against, I forget the World Cup game. It could have been against Afghanistan or one of these games. And I said, if he gets more than 30 runs, I'm going to end the live stream. He got dropped twice. And then there was like an LB or something that was like a fringe. And I was like, how is he still in batting? And he went on and scored. He ended up scoring 40 or something. But some of these players, I don't know how they still stay in the side.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, man. But sometimes, I think it's just about recognizing the opportunities to comeback stories, for example, right? Everybody loves a comeback story. And if you know that there's somebody, let's say, in your, system that has the potential to really come and, take the game to the next level, just the potential, you want to select that person just on potential, because if he does what we think he can do, he's going to bring a lot of newer attention to the game. So I don't think, we're
that's why he's here.
Those things as well.
Yeah, Mitch Marsh. That's why he's here. He's a classic comeback story. He was dropped from the team. He was in as the 13th man, 14th man. There was an injury day before the game. He comes in England for the Ashes. They drop him, and then he goes in and scores 100, and he becomes the hero. Yeah. And then that has led him to now be the captain for the T20 side.
Yeah, and he's a powerhouse of a player now, man.
Oh,
he's a powerhouse of a player.
Once he gets going, he's going. But it's one of those things. Like some of these guys, if you get them early, they're toast, man.
Yeah, big time. What do the Australians fans call him?
What do we call the what?
Mitchell Marsh. They call him something, right? There's a name I forget. It's not.
I don't know.
The nickname they call him. Damn it, I can't think of it.
Australians are big on their nicknames, though.
Yeah, I know. There's a funny nickname that they call him, man, and
we'll have it for next week. It'll be a big Australian next week with the little T20 tournament. Yeah,
I can't think, but let us know if you guys know any other story. We've just discussed a couple of stories here as well. We're gonna move on to the next one, which is cultural icons. Some athletes transcend sports and become cultural icons. David Beckham made soccer. Warney, yeah.
Warney.
Yeah. So, Beckham made soccer cool.
Beckham. Yeah.
Lionel Messi doing the same. MS Dhoni for, in cricket in India. He's a symbol of modern success and calm under pressure and leadership. USA obviously needs, something like that. So that's another way that, we think that these players can take advantage of. So I don't know, if you've got something on these points, Adam.
Yeah, like I said, like to really be a icon inside of a team, the team has to do well. So like Shane Warne would never have been Shane Warne unless well, that's maybe a little bit of a lie, but he wouldn't have been as big as he was if the team didn't do well. Yeah. If Ricky Ponting, if they didn't win every ODI they played, in every World Cup they played, if they had a losing series against England, like if they weren't winning 90% of their games, they wouldn't have been as big a side, and the people inside of those wouldn't have scored as many runs and got as many wickets. Like, you have to consider that those players that have scored the most runs and the most wickets come from teams that win. Because, like, you know, you don't go to the top of the list and see a name of someone that's on like a losing team. You know what I mean? Like, some people on losing sides can get, you know, up there because they're the only star that team has. But generally, when you get into like the 400 club, the 500 club, or whatever for bowling, or you're getting into the 10,000 runs, they're only on winning sides. They're not on losing sides that have good winning records.
Yeah, I think this cultural thing mostly has to do with, man, like, you know, not how you're known onto the cricket field, but how you're known off the cricket field. You know, what you're known for besides cricket, right? So I think those things really become a major part of, you know, becoming that cultural icon. Because if you're going to be involved, you know, with social causes, you're going to be involved with, you know, high end things that are happening and helping develop the actual culture. If you're going to be at that level, you know, you're going to garner attention. You're going to garner newer audiences. You're going to garner popularity. But again, with the challenge for our players is, right, full-time jobs, then getting to play full-time cricket, and then just balancing family and all that. So how do they find time to do, you know, focus on these types of things? Because they're not, you know, as well paid as somebody like players in India or England or Australia or Pakistan or even Sri Lanka or West Indies.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the challenge, I think, is the paying disparity for these players. Obviously need to increase, and we need to pay our players and pay them well so they can focus on the game, focus on the social causes, and help you develop and grow the game of cricket, and not just come and play and then go back to work to their 9 to 5. So that's not the right approach, in my opinion. It needs to stop.
I mean, so the only way that happened, because in Australia up until the 80s, that's how it worked. You played cricket, you went to work. You played cricket, you went to work. Like, you had a full-time job also. And then it was his name is slipping my tongue right now. But they basically had the big guy who owns the papers down in Melbourne. He does a bunch of stuff here in America as well. They basically bought out cricket, and so he paid the players, and he got the players money, real money, and that's kind of grown. Because even if you consider the way that it is today, like, even when I was watching cricket in the 90s, like, they didn't make big money. They made like 200,000, 100,000, 200,000. Like, that is not big money. Now they make $1 to $2 million. Like, the money has come through places like the IPL, injecting so much money into the sport that the nation has to then almost match salary, because otherwise they're going to lose that player to go play IPL all the time. So I don't know where the money is. I don't see the financials of the USA cricket, but obviously there needs to be some financials and someone to be backing them to have the money coming in, because obviously we don't have the support of the infrastructure to have ticket sales be what boosts it or anything like that. So it really needs to be funded by a big organization that's like backing it. And then able to grow it that way. But then that also means that there has to be places for them to play. You know, it's a whole thing. And, you know, with the icons, the iconic thing, sometimes the iconic thing doesn't have to be a good thing. Like, when I think of Shane Warne, all we heard about Shane Warne outside of cricket was bad things. Scandal this, scandal that, drunken night here, doing this bad thing here, you know, but it's like that also is media. All media's, what would you say earlier? All attention's good attention. All media is good media.
All public. There's no such thing as bad publicity, right? So, like, if you look at a player like Imran Khan, the most iconic player from Pakistan, you know, he essentially, you know, was a party boy in the 70s and 80s from a Muslim country, but the personality was such that it was just through, you know, it went beyond what, you know, the cricket field, because he was such a strong personality. Got into politics and social activism, now sitting in jail, you know, for trying to help his country right now. So there's, you know, I mean, there's, Imran Khan's been in jail for the last 2 years, and you know, he was a prime minister of the country. So the politics and all that stuff is there, right? And he's still fighting that battle. He's very, you know, focused on it. So, you know, from that standpoint, we're going to get into obviously social activism and social movements and activism, right? Because that's one of our points, how people can get popular. Imran Khan started with the cancer hospital. You know, he came back to the 1992 World Cup, he was done. He couldn't even bowl in the 90s, early 90s, 90. But the prime minister at that time begged him. They said, dude, we're going to go to the World Cup in 92. I want you to lead this team. So he decided yes on the fact that he needed to raise money for a cancer hospital. So that was his vision. He wasn't trying to, his ultimate goal wasn't to win the World Cup. It was to win the World Cup so he can get money for the cancer hospital. So the vision was bigger, and through that kind of the vision, he became the leader of the country. And, he's still fighting that battle to this day for the last 25 years, and if we bring up some examples here in the US, we can talk about Colin Kaepernick, we can talk about Muhammad Ali, some of the biggest activists of, their time. And Colin Kaepernick obviously, put his own NFL career on the line, and he could have gone about it a different way, in my opinion, but it is what it is, right? This social activism can bring you the popularity, but you need to approach it in the right manner and let your personality kind of shine through.
Right. Yeah, no, I don't know too much about Kaepernick after this stuff. Like, I don't know where he is now. But like, sometimes it doesn't work, but like sometimes it does work. And I mean, it's interesting to hear that story you just spoke of, because I didn't really know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about Pakistan. No, I didn't know that. I mean,
the media shuts it.
Yeah, and I mean, like country to country, you don't really get taught much about other countries outside of your own country. That's just kind of how it is. Like it's even incredible coming from Australia how little Americans know about Australia. Like that's a big thing for me, because with a shoe on the other foot, everyone knows everything about America because you're told stuff about America. So that's
it's all perception, man. Here, I mean, a lot of the people that I've met here, right, they haven't even left the country, right? So like mostly, not even the state, like mostly they've lived in one place for a long time, born, raised here. So the cultural thing maybe is a lack for a lot of people here in the US, right? Me and you that have immigrated from here, I've traveled a lot of different countries. I'm sure you have too.
Oh yeah.
That's brought us, different side of culture just from, traveling and talking to different people in different countries. And I'm sure your experience in Sri Lanka when you went to, with your school team, in high school and in early days in Australia must have been a different learning experience for you. Must have brought a different side out of you, right? So
absolutely. I learned so much from that trip. Like that was incredible. Like to go from a regular, I don't know, you would call it regular world, your backyard, to going to a country that's third world, where it's under civil unrest. Like there was a civil war going on. There's people in the streets. There's slums. There's poverty. There's, and you're like, this is real. Like this is real life.
It's eye-opening.
You don't see, it's eye-opening. And I was 15 at the time, and that was like a huge eye-opener for me.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things coming back was just gratitude, man. Like you have to be so grateful for everything that you have. And I have zero time for anyone ungrateful.
Exactly.
Being here, like your family's from Pakistan, like that's a different world. I got to on the weekend. I spoke to a bunch of guys from Pakistan, and they were like, "We were lucky." Like he said something to the fact of more kids die from stray bullets than like soldiers do, or something like that. He's like, if you're in the streets, you're lucky you're just gonna get a stray bullet playing cricket in the street. And he's like, they moved here and they're 16 or something like that. Him and his brother. And he's like, just so lucky to be here because it's like it's just a whole different world. There's nothing to be ungrateful for being here. Like being in those countries is something you don't want to, it's different. It's a different world.
Absolutely. It's eye-opening, when you go to other countries and you just talk to the people, the way they live there, the way they eat, the way they, dress. And it really is, brings out a side out of you that, hey, there's other things besides what's going on here in the US, right? I think it's the media that's controlled. We only see what we see on TV here. We don't really follow any of the news outside, right? Because we're not aware of what's happening outside of the US walls. So I think we need to take that open approach here. The population here needs to obviously be more educated across what's going on in the world and on these social activism things that are happening and because the media is not covering these things. There's obviously, powers in place that shuts down these types of things. So media only covers what they want them to cover, essentially. So That's what it's about, doing your own research, making sure you're following, news coverages from, neutral places that you trust. And make sure you know what's going on in the world, so you can make better decisions, when it comes to even our politics and our elections here in the US. So, because it makes a big difference, just knowing what's going on.
100%.
Absolutely. So now we're going to move on to the next one, Adam. We're going to go to engaging with youth. So Stephen Curry changed basketball by inspiring the younger generation with his 3-point shooting. Kids all over the world are now copying his style, right? So in cricket, players like Rishabh Pant have become, favorites among younger fans because of the aggressive and fun style of play. They make the game exciting for younger audiences. So do we see anybody right now in the U.S. spotlight that's, we see Sai Tejamukalama, who's young and exciting, and maybe a couple other guys that you think they can name off the top of the head that can really take this, take their youth and them being young as an advantage to gaining popularity in USA cricketing landscape.
Yeah, I don't know about the younger crowd inside of the team that's going to get it. Like, I'm not sure how old Steph Curry was. I feel like Steph Curry, like, I know a couple of 10, 12-year-olds and obsessed with Steph Curry. And I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
I think it's more on the way that he played, which is what got people's attention, the way that he was just hitting those threes from deep.
Yeah.
And it kind of turned the game itself of basketball gave it a little bit of different flair, which people enjoyed. So, like, if you were to transfer that over to cricket, it's going to have to be in this T20 format. Someone has to go out there and just hit bombs. Like, has to be a Chris Gale or like an Aaron Judge that can go out there. We don't have Chris Gale anymore, but there has to be an enforcer person that kind of like really gets people excited to go watch cricket. And it's interesting. Obviously, we're going to see Travis Head he just broke a couple of records in the Scotland game. Like, he scored 9 runs in 5 balls, whatever. There were 80 of 30 balls, whatever he scored. No singles, all 4s and 6s. But having someone that can be that big hitter, that can be like Aaron Judge, because Aaron Judge is going to be someone that you could say in this category that's inspiring youth to like get into baseball.
Big time.
Got to be a big hitter. So at this point, Taylor would have been that guy, but he hasn't been able to get really going. But Goose is great. Goose did some really good batting performances in the World Cup and in the MLC. And I really feel like he has to be the kind of the head going forward for the USA batting lineup. He really needs to make the big runs with Monak Patel there. I feel like Monak Patel is probably one step down in regards to like big hitting potential. So big hitting potential, I'm going to go with Goose to be like the guy. If he could really go off and score some really quick 50s and do that kind of thing and kind of make it exciting, I think that's going to be the guy that people will get behind.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you. And there's talent here, man. And just Karan Malhotra, I brought him up in previous conversations as well. The guy has a world record of hitting 6 sixes, and we didn't take him to the T20 World Cup, right? So for me, it was a mind-numbing kind of a thing that there was an opportunity for you to send somebody who could have potentially hit massive 6s and bring more new audiences to the game of cricket, but we looked the other way for whatever reason or so. We selected our 15. I get it, but I think that's what I mean by identifying the opportunities of somebody who's maybe a comeback story and can come back and bring you those newer audiences. So a team selection should also not just have that we're going to select out of these players. It's also, hey, who can make that impact to grow the game. Right. So we need to have a bigger vision than just, hey, we want to win this game and do what we're trying to do. It's about impact, right? Even if you lose the game, but the impact gets bigger, even from one player, the growth in itself will drive so much traffic, right? So again, everything is that traffic based, in my opinion, and the strategies need to be how we can drive maximum eyeballs and maximum traffic to USA cricket and Major League Cricket and minor league cricket. So that's how.
I feel like this series is going to really amp up with Netravolka being bowling and Goose being back in the lineup. I feel like we're going to be much stronger.
Yeah, but again, we're missing Aaron Jones, Ali Khan. This is not our top lineup, right? We're missing
Well,
some
Ali
big
Khan,
players
yeah,
in here.
I miss. Yeah, we need Ali Khan. I just feel like even just those two being back,
Yeah,
I feel like it gains us, 30,
yeah,
40 runs, and it gets us an
yeah,
extra 2 wickets. Like that in
yeah,
itself, because you don't know exactly why they picked the side. Selection
exactly.
could be something. I would love to see Ali Khan in these lineups. That's 100% sure.
Yeah, and
Khan,
Gajan Singh in the middle order. He was a beast of a player, man. In ODI cricket, consistent run scorer in T20 and ODIs for USA Cricket. I don't know why he's being looked the other way. So select the best players for the job, man. If he's the best middle order we have, get him in that lineup. And same thing goes for a guy like Jaskaran. If he was one of our best, get him in there. Why are we trying and testing, experimenting with newer guys into the system, especially at that time of the World Cup? So that's when, from that time on, I was kind of mind boggled that those two players in particular weren't in that squad. But, even now, like, I think they're being overlooked, because now it makes more sense that we want to go towards younger players to build for the future and next World Cup. Fine, makes sense. But in that time, I think those two guys were well-deserved spots, and they could have helped us big time even get, to the next level in that World Cup. So,
yeah. I think, in with that is that the structure is set up a little differently. Like if you consider how it works in county cricket in England and how it works in club cricket, grade cricket in Australia, they all pull towards states. So there's the 5 big Australian states that play, and they have their individual tournament, and you get selected off the state side.
Yeah.
You have to be playing well for the state to then get selected for the national team, and then to get selected for the state side, you have to be doing well in the major city club. And then to get into the major city club, you have to be doing it in one of the regional clubs. Because like I played in a regional club, so I played for Newcastle. And if I wanted to make to the next level, I would have had to move to Sydney to play in the Sydney League to then be eligible to play for the state. But you'd have to like literally move location to do that. Whereas here, there isn't. It's just it's a mismatch.
Yeah.
And where I'm from, like the locally born people played for their state.
Yeah.
You played for your state if you from that state. And then it was, in recent time they allow like 1 or 2 people to be traded, I guess, to a different state. But generally, you played for your state, and then from your state, you would then go on to the next level.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get selected unless you played for your state.
Yeah. So that's lacking. I mean, the structure is non-existent here, right? So,
that's why
players don't know what the path is, and that's the biggest problem of getting people into cricket, because they don't know if their time's going to be worth it, right? It could be their passion, but if they don't see a pathway to success, they're not going to want to invest their time in it. So they need to be that clear path of success, the way it is in other sports here in cricket, in baseball and football, and everything is defined, right? And cricket, how it is in Australia, that system, again, we need that approach here, of having that grassroots level and the system being defined and the vision being clear for every single person who wants to try their hand at cricket. They know, hey, if I go to college and I get a scholarship in a Division I school in cricket, I can get to the next level. Right. So those are some things that I think, we can definitely do. And the last thing we want to discuss is legacy building, Adam. Kobe Bryant, Mamba mentality isn't just about basketball. It's a way of life for athletes in every sport. Don Bradman, still considered the greatest. His legacy has endured for decades. His records, his influence, they're still being talked about today. A guy like Brian Lara, Viv Richards, great players, and there's so many iconic players from so many different countries that we can name. Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, a current icon, Steven Smith, Kane Williamson. All these guys have inspired the next generation to play cricket and pick up a bat. But for us, we're lacking that legacy, man. That legacy is big time, not here. So
just starting.
It's just starting. Yeah.
And that's the thing. It really comes down to, again, this loops all the way back to the first point, is you have to win. You have to win, and you have to put runs on the board. Like Sachin Tendulkar isn't Tendulkar without scoring hundreds of runs. Exactly. Ponting isn't that without scoring hundreds of runs. Lara isn't that without scoring hundreds of runs. Those guys went out and batted and batted and batted.
Yeah.
And we can have to consider that those players really almost made the name for themselves in Test and ODI cricket before. These guys never played T20s.
Yeah.
T20s, these names everyone just mentioned never played a T20 in their life. Probably did, in the end, maybe at some point, but they built their legacies on test match cricket and ODI cricket. So now with this new wave of cricket coming in where it's T20, it's a different game.
Yeah.
Like I technically still have never played a 2020.
Yeah.
Like T20 came like the year I left cricket. Like almost because I retired from cricket.
Yeah.
And that whole style of batting is dying. The whole style of batting all day is dying. And that's a different style of cricket. Then you have to basically teach kids now how to hit big, because they can't, if they just block all day and defend the wicket all day, well, then they're not going to make any runs and you're going to lose your T20 game.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go play a 50 over game, then you go teach them how to block all day to a point until you can start accumulating runs slowly. So, to really build the legacy, we just need people. We just need the team to win, and those individual stars to kind of like keep having those incredible games, keep getting those 4 or 5 wicket hauls, scoring those 50s, and really see how T20 really brings the stars out. I mean, the T20 stars are only just developing, considering it's only been a newer format of the game.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll look back in 5 years, 10 years time, be like, oh, that T20 player he was the GOAT or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the way I would like to end off, right, is by saying 3 words, right, of what these guys did to build these legacies. Consistency, determination, and hard work, man. These 3 things is probably, was what my last message would be to end this conversation here, is to any players, that are looking to build their own legacies, right? In cricket, consistency, determination, and hard work. There's nothing special about, these guys. They put in the work to get what they wanted out of it, right? So if you ask each one of them, they'll tell you, man, I wasn't special. It was just consistency, determination, and hard work of wanting to achieve what they wanted to achieve, right? That's what made them special at the end of it. But if you ask any one of them, Tom Brady, you ask Tom Brady, he's like, dude, I wasn't special. I sucked, right? But I put in the work. I put in the determination. I put in the effort to become the legend, right? That's the mindset we need in these players, because if they put in the work and go out there and perform to the best of their abilities, there's going to be so many more iconic players, man, coming out of USA Cricket, building the popularity of the game, getting into massive brands, getting into fashion, getting into, all mainstream media across the board to build the brand of cricket. And that's what we need. We need a USA brand of cricket. There's world cricket. Yeah, sure. But we need USA Cricket brand to stand on its own and develop its own iconic players. And, that's my last thoughts on this, man. And if you want to add any thoughts in that before we call it off, Adam.
No, that's it. No, just a big shout in the chat. We got NE send up in the chat. Thanks for the love on the TikTok, my guy. Appreciate it. Shouty said, love from Nepal over here. Nepal.
Awesome, man. Yeah, love the Nepali fans, man. I've gotten a couple of requests to do some videos on Nepal, and there's a lot of followers. So maybe we'll work something out.
It's a secret cricket hub over there.
Oh, big
secret cricket. I just play with a Napoleon. I don't know. Nepalese. I just play with a Nepalese on the guy on the weekend. Fantastic. Shout out to Tosh over there. He cooked me some food. I can't remember what it was called, but it was delicious.
Biryani, probably.
Yeah, that's the one. That's it. That's the one. Biryani. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
it. You guys want to eat biryani? Just come to cricket. On Sundays. Come to cricket.
They'll cook for you. They'll cook for you. I swear to God, they'll cook for you. You come down, they cook. Oh my God, it was so good. I had goat. It was goat biryani. It was good, delicious.
That's awesome. Mutton biryani, man. That's great.
Yeah, it was good.
Well, that was a lovely conversation, Adam.
What a stash, bro. What a pod right there.
Yeah, there you have it, guys.
Over an hour.
Ways stars build popularity of their sport and how we think cricket could do the same here in the U.S. We want to hear from you. What's the best way to make cricket as big here as basketball or baseball? So we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let us know. And yeah, before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends. And remember to tune in next week when we dive into how cricket can grow across the U.S. and bring some more new things for you guys. So again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out those links in the description. And Nabeel Khan and Adam Eden from the Reverse Scoop, signing off. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye, guys.